school? What interests you? What interests you about the idea of going to law school? Why do you think that that would be a good career thing to add to your to what you have?
I wanted to go to law school originally because I felt that I had a good grasp at interpreting written word, which I think that's what law is about.
Interpreting what?
Written word.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Good at, finding an argument. And I also believe that as a Black person, there's so many injustices in the legal system, the legal health system, immigration. And I just think that we have to be our own best friends with this. We cannot change the system from the outside. We have to change the system from the
Man.
inside. So
Mhm.
when people say the system is so corrupt, I don't want to be a police officer, or I don't want to be a lawyer, or I don't want to be a judge, that doesn't really make sense to me. I believe in there's two different types of protest. There's resistance, and then there's reform from within, I
Mhm.
think. So I'm one of those people that think that if you want to change stuff, you got to get in there.
No, I definitely appreciate and understand that. And it's kind of a framework of looking at it like, is protesting always the best thing to do? Because while you're protesting and stuff's getting like, I mean, sometimes it's helpful, but sometimes we have like, months of that's all people are doing. And
I
it's
believe in
like you're
both.
not really, huh?
I believe in both.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Hmm.
Yeah, both are helpful. Because, but I definitely just appreciate your interest in kind of just engaging on a level of like wanting to pursue like a course of study that you think will empower you. Like I think empowerment is so important, because then you're not always complaining to somebody else, but you're becoming somebody who can facilitate change. And
Exactly.
and it's like and sometimes as Black people we worry too much about being let in or being given a this or being given a that. Maybe it's the Nigerian in me, but I don't really look at life like that. I think
Mhm.
if you can just claim things by just doing more and more and more, and God can like give the things that other people establish to you somehow or whatever. You're just supposed to keep, because if you're always waiting for someone else to then it's like there's not, I
You
mean, there's value in that too. There's value in 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 giving deference to mankind, because God always says that, like, prefer the other person, don't always like put yourself first, don't always like if you want to facilitate change, revolution like instantly is not always the best thing, because you want people to understand each other, and sometimes getting people to understand is like, and sometimes how it is with people, we just get used to something gradually. So for
Mhm.
example, if you like say, I don't know, like nominate somebody for like the first Black president or something. Remember with Obama, the first reaction, it's like by some people, I know you're a New Yorker, but think about there was like yeah. So it's like the first reaction from somebody is like, oh, what's that? But like because it like surprises them or something like that. But like when I was in law school is when his candidacy was, and there was a lot of like, and they were, it's a decent school, but there were a lot of people who reacted to it in a really negative way. And that
Mhm.
could be because politically he's a conservative candidate, but it could also just be because it's like, it was something different to them. But I think that it's one of those things. I guess what I'm trying to say is kind of like sometimes it's like, but then after they get to know him more, think about how overwhelmingly he got reelected. Like there was no controversy that, because nothing could be, you can't be like, oh, it's because the first time they were trying to be like, oh, you don't know what it's good. They just all these like conspiracy theories of what was going to happen. He's going to take all the money and take it to Kenya, or he's going to like really, really. Okay, fine. You didn't hear that, but I did.
I heard that. I
Yeah,
remember.
just really, really, really crazy shit.
When you
That's like
hear it
really
now,
extreme and
it's
would
like,
never.
oh,
But I
what?
think people only like that at first. I think people only like that at first. And then what? But during his second candidacy, did you hear any of that? No, because they realized it was like they didn't. You know what I mean? They were like, no, it's fine. He's not. What else? Oh, he's not going to appoint anybody to his cabinet other than Black people. I heard that one too. Just a lot of like really like
But
right,
you
because it was
got a problem with that. You're worried about him not appointing anybody but Black people, but there are times throughout history and up to relatively recently where the entire cabinet is white.
well,
So
yeah, and that's kind of
you're
what
not gonna
like,
get that for
and
a second.
and there are people who take that perspective too, like if, which is what you're saying. You're saying even if that it had happened that way, it really wouldn't be that big a deal. Which is your point, right? Even if it was that way, it wouldn't be that big a deal. Which is what Ruth Bader Ginsburg said when they asked her, like, when they're like, okay, fine, now there are three. I don't know how many. There are three women in the Supreme Court, and they asked her. They were like, well, now when is it enough? When is it going to be enough? And she was like, well, I don't see why there couldn't be like, well, all the justices couldn't be female and everybody would be in an uproar, because for so long they were all male all the time and nobody cared then.
Like then.
So she was kind of, so instead of giving them an answer that I thought she would say, like when 50-50, like I thought she would say, oh, when there's 4 or 5 and then there's other, she basically just said, what's the big deal if all of them were a female, considering for so long all of them were white males and nobody seemed, that didn't bother anybody, right? Or you know what I mean? So I thought it was interesting, because which is what you're saying too. You're like, even if all his cabinet had been black, right? Which even if they had been, what would have been the big deal, right? Because after all, they were always white for spray. So it's kind of like, and it also doesn't really make any sense, because it implies that somehow like that would make white people uncomfortable with the idea of like, you know, like, only because it's new, right? Because as this country continues forward, there's going to be a lot more minorities than, you mean, as just, you know, that like a lot more people. So if they don't like I know, again, it's not as much of an issue in certain places, in certain cities maybe, but I guess I'm just thinking about how yeah, I mean the I mean, being comfortable with the idea of being led by even a Black president and vice president should be like a non-issue. Because
Really,
just
these are the first Black faces in hundreds of years. So I still don't get it. But unfortunately, Trump's presidency, I don't regret it, because it really,
oh, me neither. I didn't mind him so much. I felt like he just said whatever he wanted all the time. And well, let me let you have your reason. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
It just opens everybody's eyes to what everyone was saying all along. All along. And if you look at the situation from beginning to end, if you see the way it unraveled so spectacularly, even the attack on the Capitol, I didn't regret that either. I was very happy to see that. Not because of the people that died, not that they were wrong, but these are the consequences. Look at the consequences of the racism. In a lot of ways, the election of Trump was the answer to Obama.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And he capitalized on that. His candidacy was like, let's take our country back from the, but you know what? I love God. To me, I feel like he's in charge of everything. He let them, and Trump wasn't necessarily a bad president, but he let them see like what their reject, like I felt like he was kind of like the way Trump was a reflection of like,
I will say he was a horrible president. It was chaos from beginning to end, especially what he did in immigration. I was working at an immigration law firm at the time. Everything was upside down. Everything was chaos. Everything. The Supreme Court sued him a bunch of times. He would overturn rulings from the same Supreme Court, deport people for no apparent reason. All that rhetoric that he was spewing out, there were people thought it was, oh, he's just talks. Oh, he's just talking shit. No, there was actually real people behind him, actually negatively impacting people from Black countries, those shithole countries that he was talking about. They really had a hard time. He tried to get rid of TSP for Haitians. Imagine you're here coming to this country from a different country, trying to make a better life for yourself, and now you're living in constant fear of deportation or have been deported. They tried to take away people's Medicaid in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah. Well, he definitely didn't make like, you know, people of color causes his priority or immigrant causes. He definitely capitalized.
He made it a priority, but in a negative way.
Right. He made it a priority to try to screw them over.
He really, really, really did a lot. And you have to be in that world or working in those types
to
of
see that, yeah. To realize that. I think so. I've never heard that story before, that actually, like, if you were working in an immigration law firm or like you know, like a law clinic for immigrants and stuff like that, that they had a really hard time during his presidency.
I mean, you apply for a green card, something that took 4, 5, 6 months, 2 years.
Forever. Yeah. So it just became more.
Right. Imagine if your legal health is one of those factions that they help people that have severe health crisis. you're trying to get Medicaid to have an emergency surgery and
Mhm,
you don't qualify. You're
mhm,
dying and you don't
mhm.
qualify because of a new edict that he just decided to come up with. He really negatively impacted a great deal of people.
So
So
what was the talk around that time? They were just saying like,
everybody was miserable. Everybody
yeah.
was more work for attorneys. The
Mm,
clients are crying. Everybody's upset. Everybody's fearful. I
mhm,
became more and more bold, popping up to people's doorsteps. There was a point in time where ICE wasn't coming after people unless you did something wrong, unless you
mhm.
committed a crime, you're a danger to yourself or a danger to others.
Yeah.
People going to work, working underneath the books, it's going to take them some time to become legal. And
Mhm,
people used to understand this. The Obama administration understood this.
mhm,
Now you got ICE popping on your, knocking on your door at 5 a.m. in the morning
mhm.
for no reason.
Yeah, I
That's
definitely.
of culture
Mhm.
that really grew underneath his reign. Like
Okay.
that's the
Would
things
you,
that were happening.
would you say that was the beginning, that just the election of somebody with the personality, with the attitude that Trump had emboldened people, emboldened certain types of people? Do you think that was only at the beginning? Or do you think that was true towards the end too? Do you think that was true even like
From the
2019,
beginning
2020,
on, it
from the
is just
beginning
worse
on?
and worse and worse. It's not
Mm,
just Trump, it's his cronies that are behind him.
yeah.
People that work very, very closely with him.
Hmm.
Barr, all those guys. So
Hmm.
it's not just the one person. He had a lot of people behind him that just weren't nice people at
Yeah.
all.
Well,
Racist.
they definitely had a focus. They had a focus on trying to direct the country in a certain way.
Right.
So like, so you know, I mean, and I definitely understand like
Mhm.
their focus was not in the best interest of people of color at all. They kind of didn't really care. They kind of ignored, right? Yeah, no, I
More than
completely
ignored,
understand.
though.
Huh?
Mitch McConnell, all those guys that I would say more than ignored. They made it their mission to kind of change the face of the country, get rid of block people from getting, citizenship. It was
So
almost
you
equal.
So you felt like well, I definitely remember something about being tough on people coming from Nigeria, like sort of like, I definitely remember that. I remember them like not wanting them to get green cards or not. I definitely remember something about that, right? Like something
It,
about,
it wasn't even just Nigeria. I would
I know,
say
you're saying it was black countries, people coming from black countries in general.
exactly Ghana, all those African
That's
countries.
so fascinating. I think
Small.
I remember, yeah,
Mhm.
I think I remember having a conversation with my mom about it, but I think she just shrugged it off as she as yeah. I mean, I think at that time I probably just thought, well, it won't last very long because chances are he won't be there that long.
I mean, well, even though he isn't there that long, what you do in 4 years kind of does have a trickle down effect.
Yeah.
Biden is he's right now trying to reverse a lot of the things that Trump did, but it is going to take some time, number one. Number two, the time that he's spending fixing this mess, this time that he
Mhm.
could have spent doing something else.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
even
Trump
if
was,
it's how
go
much
ahead.
time he spent with the border,
Hmm.
with Mexico, the money he spent on that. Those
Hmm.
children have not all been returned. Some
Hmm.
of them are still missing their parents. It was a lot. There's a lot. I mean, people in cages?
Yeah.
Really? Like,
Yeah.
in what world are we
Like,
living in?
well, yeah, in the 21st century, like, I'm just saying 2020, like we're supposed to be moving
The
forward.
conservative side, like, I just don't understand. These are and a lot of people allow religion to control them, to blind them, to not see what's going on. This isn't godly. This isn't
Yeah.
God. This isn't Christianity at all.
Yeah.
Somebody in a cage. A lot of people died in those cages, and there were some. And if you look at situations like that, I'm not saying all immigration officers are like that. Some of them have to do their job, and they're just there. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But there was one situation, I was watching CNN, and it was a story, an anecdote about one child. His food fell on the floor,
Hmm.
and he was told by the immigration officer to eat that food off the floor.
Hmm.
Now, something like this happened overseas, we'd be calling somebody. We'd be making
Yeah.
this would be some
Yeah.
inhumane,
Yeah.
what on earth
Yeah.
happened in SADS?
Yeah.
Like, this is happening in the United States.
Uh,
And
yeah.
we're okay with this. A lot of people are okay with this because of Trump's abortion laws,
Mhm.
because he's supposedly conservative,
Mhm.
because they don't believe in global warming.
Mhm.
I'm not going to, I'm smarter than that, I think. I'm
Mhm.
not going to allow anybody to make me think that this is God, that this is Christianity, because I'm a Christian and I don't believe that that's Christian.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, I mean, and if you also look at it, not only was there inhumane stuff in handling of immigrants, like, do you think that maybe even some of the stuff that the problems we had with police, well, that was more of a result of cell phones. It was more of a result of us being able to see what was going on. Well, I don't think that the police were mean or doing.
Police brutality on Trump, that's something that we as Black people have always dealt with. It's something
Yeah.
we've seen. If you look back into Rodney King, that has
Hmm.
always been a thing.
Yeah.
I will say, yeah, it's technology that's allowing it to be.
More seen.
But again, he mishandled those situations as well. He
Hmm.
completely mishandled those situations as well.
Hmm.
He made a fool of himself. But that I can't say Trump is responsible for. That was well before his time.
Yeah. Yeah, because like, I mean, I can't even remember what his reactions were to the shootings before he lost in November.
I would say that he probably had something ignorant to say. I can't really remember, but
Yeah.
if you look at it, there was one protest where people died, and it was against Black Lives Matter versus the white nationalists.
Uh-huh.
That man got up there and said, "You got some bad people on one side, and you got some really, really bad people on the other side. Also violent." You see the way he's like riding this line where he doesn't want to piss off the people that are actually voting for him, the white
Uh-huh.
nationalists, the people
Uh-huh.
in Middle America. His
Yeah.
rhetoric, he couldn't say straight off the bat that this is absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
Just riding this line, and even when with the debate between himself and Biden.
Yeah.
Something. What was the word that he said? Stand back and stand by.
Oh, but to those guys, yeah, that's true. He
What
did
was
say that. You know
that?
what's funny to watch? Well, because he's basically like he doesn't want to alienate them. He doesn't want to alienate those
What is
supporters.
the face baiting that we're dealing with right now?
It was really entertaining. It was
He
really
was
entertaining.
told
Not
specifically. Biden asked him specifically,
to
"What
denounce
do you
them.
have to
Will you
say?
denounce
Will
them?
you denounce these people?"
Yeah.
I completely denounce that
And
type
he
of.
said, stand
I'm
back
gonna
and
stand back and stand back.
yeah. So he didn't denounce
Are you
them.
kidding?
He's just sitting, no, he's probably just sitting there thinking, I need these people to vote for me. I'm not going to denounce them. So he doesn't. He's like, yeah,
And
it's crazy. I can't imagine. So New Yorkers hate him, right?
the people that voted for this man, I just don't. Are we serious right now? Like I'm just remembering everything. The last 4 years was just like a blur because when it's bad when there's
Huh?
so much to say. There's so much that
Well, I mean, there was
you
a
don't
lot of,
even know where to
I,
start.
I like, I didn't like the way he conducted himself. Sometimes he could be a handful. And he always kept you at the edge of your seat. You always had to watch TV. You always had to watch, you always had to watch,
Mhm.
and then every day just to make sure that everything was okay because Trump held a press conference every day. He held a press conference constantly because but then it was always to say something crazy like inject yourself with disinfectant or like do this or do that. But so I think a lot of
Told
times,
Americans,
huh?
he told Americans to drink bleach.
Yeah, or drink bleach or just shit like that. Like he was an embarrassment when it comes to like those kinds of things. But that's like we didn't have any wars. Like we didn't escalate. The war in Afghanistan didn't get worse. And like for a long time, for people,
He didn't have any wars. He definitely killed one Iraqi guy. He bombed up a plane.
I'm
I
just
mean,
saying, as far as like the time being really active in terms of war, it was not really that active of a wartime. I was happy when he lost. I didn't vote for him the first time. I didn't vote for him the second time. I'm just one of those people who didn't think it was like the worst thing in the world at times, because I felt like politics is complicated, and a lot of the people who say the things they're supposed to do don't always do the right things either. So I felt like
this was
the
so far gone.
but yeah, I know he was far gone, just said whatever came to his head too much all the
It,
time. He never behaved
it,
properly. But
it
also
was
kind of felt like God gave us Trump as an answer to like Obama. He was kind of like, I gave you guys, this handsome, smart black guy who cares about people and does everything he's supposed to do with his wonderful wife and his wonderful children. And, of course, these people have a lot of respect and a lot of love, but there was a lot of negativity thrown at them too.
of course, but I don't think God is going to punish Black people for that.
No,
Because
I mean, he punished America by giving them somebody who kept them at the edge of their seats and made them like
like,
watch, like, yeah, then we're like, oh my God, what's happening next? We're taking bleach, we're eating. Like, he gave us that as sort of like a response. But everything can have can have like a lot of things, that the way I think God works, things can have a double pronged effect. So it had the effect of giving us a reality check too, kind of like contrasting. I gave you this guy, and it was like, and he's great. He was great. But you had some people, and a lot of people realized he was great, but then a lot of people were, there were some people who just had to be like, it was just too new and different to them. And then he's like, fine, you want a white guy? Here's Trump. So then he gave them it, and he's like always stumbling up on his face, always slurring words, always doing that. He kind of gave them the opposite. I thought it was really funny. It was really, I mean, it's really, in history, it'll be really clever to think about, like, how that played out. But I really like the fact that the Trump presidency, I was happy that it didn't last more than 4 years, just because it's like, I didn't like the somebody behaving that way becoming normal.
right. And it was normalized after a
Yeah,
while.
because I feel like if that's what works, then you can have other people try to be that way, because people just want to be successful. So if they see that as like acting like that is like a popular thing, then they're
And
just going to copy it.
like, what do you think would have happened to Black people if he would have had served another 4 years? This man was clearly a white nationalist, clearly had the support of white nationalists, and was
Mhm.
basically
I mean,
pushing
to
the
be honest with you, I unlike you don't really worry about white nationalists and like, whatever so much. I think that a lot of that stuff is a losing game in the long term.
we thought so,
I
but
definitely think
the
so. But
boldness
that's
to
why, huh?
attack the Capitol, though, like the boldness of it, like we thought this was dying, we thought this was dead, but white nationalism is alive in
So I
the
don't think a lot of
when,
people, I
when
don't
you
think
look a lot
a lot
I like Trump and his cronies are white nationalists. They probably don't know that they are, but they get so threatened when people from different countries come into the United States. They come up with all this new legislative. If you look up how many new executive orders Trump, Barr, Mitch McConnell, all those guys came up with just to bar people from colors of country of coming into the United States. That's
okay.
like a race, like they're white.
No, Trump said one time he said we should make it easier for people from like, I don't
From
know,
Europe.
Norway or something. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then make it harder. And it's just like, but you know what, honey, that doesn't worry me. I just feel like even if you did that, the amount of people that are growing and developing in all these other countries are so much more. And at the end of the day, it's so I think that like one of the things like that I think this country will realize eventually is that like trying to like politically like discourage like the progress of people of color while saying they're not is going to be a losing game, because this is the number one country in the world. You want the best people to be at the head of everything, whether they're black or white or this or that. So like, otherwise it's not gonna be anymore. If we get caught up in being divisive and playing games of like, oh, it's not like, if we get too into that, I feel like it's just gonna hamper progress in general. Or maybe some people don't care. Maybe they just get that they're rich and they don't care if you know what I mean? Maybe they just care that that things go the way they want. They don't care if the country itself is not what it used to be, because it's not gonna be. Because if you have like a certain group that there's more of them and you don't want it, and you put a lot of energy into like beating down and discouragement, fine. But like then we'll just be like, I don't know, Brazil or something.
But don't you
Will
think
just
that's what
end up
people,
like that because that's what people. But then
don't you
maybe they
think that,
don't care. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they just care that they're successful. Maybe I'm sorry, love. Go ahead.
but don't you think that's what's been happening in this country though? That there aren't intelligent doctors, Black men that could have actually been surgeons, that could have been the president. That's been happening in this country. Black people have been disenfranchised in this country for so long. And I do believe that, as somebody that's a descendant of somebody that's directly from Africa, as somebody that is the daughter of somebody that's directly from Haiti, sometimes
You're so
foreigners,
perfect. You perfect. I'm just sorry. Go ahead.
thank you. Sometimes foreigners lose sight of the fact that Black people have been this systemic racism has such a huge, huge impact on the
Mhm.
average African American. If you
Yeah.
look at the average Nigerian versus the average African American, the Nigerian has multiple degrees. The Nigerian is a doctor, is a lawyer. The Nigerian kid has a house or has a savings account. The average African American, maybe a GED, maybe a little bachelor's degree
Yeah.
from a community college.
You know what's
So
so
that
funny?
has been happening in this country. We foreigners don't, I say we foreigners because I was raised by a foreigner, by two foreign parents. We don't appreciate how much Black people have been stomped on and stomped on and stomped on for centuries and centuries. So much so, and I see them every day. They're like so unmotivated. Like they don't even, it doesn't even cross their mind that they can be bigger and better than what they are, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
And
and
Trump
what?
was one of those people. When before he became president, when he was this big hotshot real estate agent, he was one of those racist people that didn't want Black people moving into his country. That he's part of those people that segregated them. They lived in the projects like animals
Mhm.
because he didn't want Black people living where he was living. Before he became president, this man was already up to no good. But look at the Central Park Five, what he did with those boys. Went out of his way, spent over 27 grand in
Cookies.
newspaper ads to make sure that these men, these young men, not even men, they were children, go
Yeah.
to jail for a crime that they did not commit.
Mm.
And there was no proof. But this is the legal justice system that we all rely on. You know what I'm saying? Like this has been happening. So we got to be careful saying that, oh, more Black people are coming, we're going to take over and all that. Okay, I mean, this country is a few hundred years old now, so Black people have been capable. Look at Wall Street, the Black Wall Street,
Yeah.
bombed up, shut down.
Yeah. I mean, I've always like, I mean, the more when we get here, it's like we're dumbfounded sometimes by the dynamic between Black and white that's here. Like, we're dumbfounded that I was dumbfounded that like, like there's, oh my God, honey, when I was in middle school and stuff, there were so many racist things said to me that I did not even realize were racist.
Mhm.
Like whenever
I've heard that a lot. I didn't even.
yeah, there's so many that I get to get older to realize it. Like if I like, like I like you show like ambition and stuff like, as Nigerian parents, they make you do that, like you might be made to feel like, oh well, you're this, or you're like, I know you're gonna be a troublemaker or something like that. What, I've never trouble made like in my, do you know what I mean? It's just like when you want good things, they will find a way to spin it negatively because they don't want it for you. And sometimes they can get Black people to side with them too for their own reasons. Their reasons may not be the same as the white people's reasons. Their reasons may be different, but they can get them to side with them too. So it's like it's madness. Or when or just so many little things like about that I can't remember details of it, but just comments that would be made that I just would not understand. Like I said, I wouldn't understand that they were racist, but later on I would see that they were. Say, for example, I have to give a concrete example. I did teen court in high school. And I remember our advisor being very like, he wasn't mean to me, thank God. I was really happy about that at least, but he never encouraged me at all. Like all his focus was on like,
The white kids.
yeah, the white girl and the and guy. And but that didn't bother me. I didn't need him to support me. I just needed him not to get in the way. Like I didn't need him to like pet me or whatever and like fire my ego a bit. I just needed him to not be like a pain in the butt. And he was good at that. But he was always like surprised when I did stuff or surprised. It was annoying.
Like, oh my God.
Like, yeah. Like,
He's
where
a
did she get
very
this from? It was that sort of things. Like, where does she get this from?
spoken.
Yeah, that
Very educated.
yeah, something like, oh yeah, or you're very like, but then like, I don't know. A lot of Black people don't like being called articulate either, because when
Because there's the implication there.
because that they're not supposed to be, that it's some sort of a shock or a surprise or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, so stuff like yeah, I mean, what's my goal? I was really just getting at it that like, the Black people who've been here for generations have been through a lot. And what you don't realize is like that the attempt to discourage them is so deliberate and so insidious. And a lot of, like, for example, for a really long time in the media, you never saw process. It was always like, you're either like, you know, Oprah or this or something like that, or you're in the ghetto. They gave huge dichotomies.
Mhm.
And so what happens when you're neither of them? And the reason why the middle didn't exist is because then that would show kids. Like I still remember this one particular episode when Oprah was in Chicago and she was talking to this man who was just like, I don't know if he was homeless or whatever, but she was talking to him about his about what was wanted, what he wanted for his life. And he was like, oh, my kid, they ain't gonna be nothing. They're gonna be no rapper, no this. And it's like, that's the first thing that occurs to you in your kid becoming something. In other words, there's so many other things they could be. And there's like, I guess I'm just saying like, that was a big thing in the media for a long time too, is not wanting to give like, and people thought it was like, sometimes I try to make excuses for those things. Sometimes in my mind, I'm like, oh, maybe it's because like other people are only interesting to you when they're superstar or they're like really poor, unless it's your own kind, like you don't care about the regular experience or the regular process of people unless they're like you. That's the excuse I would make for it. But I think that was me just trying to like put my shoes in the foot of the other person instead of being mad at them. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'm like, all right, I know you're rolling your eyes. Sometimes
So slavery ended, right?
yeah.
But a lot of people are still enslaved in their minds. So I try to be
That's
fair.
because they push them to be a lot. That's because there's always a lot to spit. There's a
They don't
lot of
push
pressure
anymore, though. They don't have to push anymore. And let me tell you why.
because they've accepted it.
Not only that, generational, your mother is very important. Your father is very important. Your grandmother is very important. Your great grandmother is very important.
Mhm.
And I say this because I am the way that I am. I want to go to school. I'm thinking about more school, getting a master's. I'm joining the military. All that stuff was influenced by my parents saying, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your life? I had that voice in the back of my head. College was talked about by the time I was 10,
10
11,
years old, right? Sure.
something that was just thrown at me at 18.
Mhm.
All that stuff make me who I am.
Mhm.
I lived in a house growing up.
Mhm.
My parents had a car. We weren't rich, but they made sure things were taken care of. My school bills were paid, right? So I say this to say that I was given a pretty decent hand.
Mhm.
My resume is me, is my hard work, but
Mhm.
I was giving a pretty fair playing field.
Mhm.
If my mother had a GED,
Mhm.
I know for a fact I would not be the type of
Mhm.
person that I am today. Don't get me wrong, there are people out there that are just stars and they're able to just go and keep going. But
Yeah.
I don't think people give enough credit to the fact that you are who you are largely because of how you were raised.
Yeah.
Both my parents are attorneys. I know I have to do something. I
Yeah.
can't just be a bum. Like I have to do something. So if my mother only had a GED and my grandmother had a baby at 13, 14 and doesn't even know how to read, and my great great grandmother was a slave, how far would I be in life?
Mm.
How far would I be in life? Even if I was hardworking, even if I did want to go to school, complete something, it holds you back in a sense. Generational wealth is real. Like, imagine when you turn 25 and you want to buy a house.
Or generational progress. But go
Right.
ahead.
So if I'm 25 and I want to buy a house,
Mhm,
the average white girl, their parents have good credit.
mhm.
Their parents have some type of asset. When they get married, here goes a $10,000, $15,000 check for a down payment on a house. Average African American girl does not have that. Like, all that stuff is real, and I hate when people try to downplay. Oh, slavery was a long time ago. Blah 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 blah. All this stuff plays a role. Um, Even with Caribbean people, I do think that Caribbeans and Africans deal with their own trauma in their countries as well. Colonialism is a big deal. Colonialism has its own effects, but I do think America in and of itself is extremely racist, because even with colonialism, Caribbean people, African people have way more pride in self and more motivation to do something with their lives than the average African American does due
Yeah.
to slavery.
Yeah, because you don't have to live around the people that want to stomp on you and make them happy. I think that's a lot, it makes it a lot harder.
Mhm,
I think that, you always, I know you're born here, but
mhm.
technically you have a country you can go to in Nigeria and you have another country you can go to in Haiti, you know? So it's like they don't have to limit, like, I don't to be honest with you, I don't know. Cause like people of other cultures, that's why it's so much easier for like when Asians and like a lot of people from other countries come. Why? Because they have their own language, they have their own, like they can like have solidarity so easily.
I
Like
feel
with,
strongly about Asians too, in a
huh?
sense. I feel strongly about Asians too, in the sense that we're saying stop Asian hate, right? Stop Asian hate, stop Asian hate. What's the difference between stop Asian hate and Black Lives Matter? What's the major difference to you?
I
Other
don't
than the
know.
fact that they're Asian and we're Black, what is the main thing that sticks out to you?
Honey, I don't have an objective perspective on that because I have a really good friend that's Korean American that's in my ear all the time and calls me and cries and stuff like that.
Oh,
So,
she's crying. African people are dying all over the place.
but I tell her that too. I think, oh, Black people have it harder than anybody. But but
But let me tell you what the major difference is.
oh my God, yeah.
There's no white antithesis to stop Asian hate. With Black Lives Matter, you hear, well, all lives matter. And
Oh,
I'm saying,
good.
oh, no, but wait, Black Lives Matter. No, 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 no. All lives matter. Oh, but you should stop doing this. Oh,
You're
y'all
gonna
should
award you your JD right
oh,
there. You're gonna do really well in law school.
stop
You're gonna
wearing hoodies. Stop wearing hoodies. That man, that Hispanic man, Geraldo Rivera, went
Clara.
on the air and said that Trayvon Martin was killed because he wore a hoodie. All lives matter, right? And of course, it's terrible what's happening to Asian people. But when you hear stop Asian hate, I don't hear anything.
Stop hate of everybody. They don't say that. That's
Nobody's
good.
stop all hate.
There's there's no stop all
I'm not
hate.
hearing any of that.
Yeah, that's true. They only like to argue if the people, yeah, you're right.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Now I'm in an internship, real talk. I'm in
yeah.
an,
That's really, really important. That's
I'm
so
in an
important.
internship.
Let,
They're not
I
telling,
love that.
they're
There's
not
no, that
telling.
when you say Black Lives Matter, there's all lives matter. When you say stop
Research,
Asian hate, when you
research
say
all
stop
the
Asian hate, there's no stop all hate. There's no stop all hate. They
research
only want
all
to
the
argue when it's,
anti-Asian task forces that's out now.
that's a good point.
Research the response to this, that so many Asian people have been killed lately, how everybody's up in arms. They created an anti-Asian hate bill. Where is our hate bill? What's going on here? Like, what really am I on? I must be on another motherfucking planet.
I distracted you from the other point you were gonna make after. I just love that one so much. I was like, oh, that's actually true. There's no counterpoint. There's no counterpoint to that campaign. But as soon as the Black Lives Matter came, there was always there was a counterpoint to that one. Like, I think that maybe they just feel like like I don't know. I mean that's their favorite people to step on. It's hard to explain it, but once I told my friend this, I said sometimes I think that they need to step on some people to prop themselves up and cannot be in that space without that. So it's almost kind of like it's a role you are required to play. Please let me step on you. I have to be to prop myself up. Please let me keep stepping. It becomes sort of that thing. It's like that is, because I don't, yeah, because if I just let you be everything you are, well then, yeah, we can't have that. It's that sort of thing, which is sad, but whatever. God's got it. I mean, that's all I can say. God's got it, whatever. I think that like it just means that Black people are really incredible. And at the end of it all, I mean, I don't know.
I'm gonna say this too. Asians were active participants in racism towards Blacks. I'm not saying every Asian is like that. I think Asians are definitely minorities in their own rights and have been discriminated against. If you look at the building of the railroad and all
They
of
put up
that,
with a lot too, yeah.
put up with a lot as well. However, if you look at inner city communities, and nobody knows New York like I know New York, right? Look at the nail salon. When I get my nails done, and I'm part of the problem, when I get my nails done, my nails done by an Asian lady. When I get my eyelashes done, the very few times it's getting done by an Asian woman. Pedicure, manicure, pedicure, all that. When I want to get hair, go to the beauty salon to buy my hair, I'm getting my weave from an Asian lady. Hair product, Africa's finest, all that stuff. Do grow, edge control.
It's made by Asian.
Are selling that to me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you, because they own businesses in communities that are predominantly Black. And I do understand that when you live in a low-income neighborhood, you're gonna see some stuff. You're gonna see people misbehaving themselves. If I lived in a trailer park, I would see white people misbehaving themselves. But because they live in the projects, they more so see people of color misbehaving themselves. Asians have never really been allies with Black people. I've seen Asians be very, very racist towards Black people. I've seen Black people be very disrespectful in Asian stores. We have never really been allies.
My friend was talking about that's like when they were talking about all the focus and all this was definitely was between like, issues of like attacks between like the white people on Asian, that they didn't really focus on the dynamic between Black and Asian people, which has its own history that's complicated. And a lot of it is because they end up they just kind of take over these stores in the ghetto, and then the Black people sometimes resent that because they feel like they're just being used to make money. They feel like they're being used. They are being used. Yeah, the Black people like they're just being used.
I'm not saying get your hustle on. I'm not saying that they are wrong for building themselves. This is what again, the foreigner mindset, going and getting a loan from a bank to buy a store and make something for yourself so you can pass it down to your kids. That is wonderful. I don't have a problem with the fact that they own
these businesses
in Black communities. I have a problem with the fact that Black people don't own businesses in Black communities.
So that's actually a really important question. Why?
Back in the day, and I have to do my research to get your exact dates and the exact names, they were given loans. When a Black person goes into a bank to get a loan versus an Asian person going into a bank to get they are being treated very, very differently, especially back in the 70s and 80s. Asians were buying up property in the hood like it was nothing. If you look at the situation that happened with Rodney King in LA, where all the Black people went crazy, looting and rioting, not saying that was the solution. Most of those communities were busting up stores that were owned by Asians. They were hit hard by that. That should let you know in and of itself. There's another young woman that was shot down, dead, 15 years old, in the back of the head by a Korean shop owner. A woman, because she thought the little girl was stealing juice.
So she was stealing something from them. Yeah, that's crazy.
You know what happened? She got off.
Oh, the Asian lady got off? She didn't get prosecuted?
There was a white judge. She got off.
Oh, wow.
That's the type of relationship that Asians and Black people. So when I hear stop Asian hate, 100% stop Asian hate. But what's all this riffraff and shakara that I'm hearing when we're saying Black Lives Matter? Like, what's the difference between the argument? Like, I'm really trying to understand.
There's no difference. They just like to fight with, black people more. So like, if black people say Black Lives Matter, they want to argue with that. But people say stop Asian hate, no, they don't want to say stop all hate. I mean, God, all hate needs to stop. It's kind of
like, let's not even admit that there's a problem. Like, specifically amongst Black people. That's the problem. Stop all hate. Black lives, all
lives matter. Yeah, get to the real one.
Admit that Black lives have not mattered throughout history. They don't want to.
Yeah. I think a lot of it is that, you know what I realized to some extent, when Black people complain, white people feel like it incriminates them somehow. And not just in the moment, but historically. Like, oh, because there's so much, that's why they say stuff like, oh, slavery wasn't that bad. This wasn't that bad. And when they say things like, slaves built the White House and things like that, I'm like, but now you have you had a Black president and family. And I remember thinking, that's so beautiful. That's such a beautiful story. It's like a movie. But then you have Black people complain, white people who didn't like that. It's like, why can't you just celebrate victory for what it is? Is there a need to not like it because you feel like it somehow like incriminates you? Do you see what I mean? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe somehow it's like, it makes them feel guilty somehow. Huh?
Stop getting so defensive about
historical. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. You don't have to feel like it personally suggests something that you did something. It's okay. It's okay to celebrate other people's progress and victories. It doesn't mean you don't have to be like, yeah, I guess. You don't gotta be like that. Like if they're like that. So it's frustrating because it's just like, I feel like it's like adding insult to injury. Because it's almost like you are trying to have a victory over it, but they wouldn't even let you have a victory party. Because the idea of that is also like, do you see what I mean?
There's
so it's like, when does it end? Do you see what I mean?
So there's a Black woman, the Black girl that died, her name was Latasha Harlins.
Mm-hmm.
Latasha Harlins. I just wanted to put that name up before I forgot. Yeah, it's definitely very different. And I've seen it in the military too. It's bad. You're dealing with a lot of degenerates of society, people that really can't make it on their own. So
and then decide to go into the military. Uh-huh.
I'm not saying all of the military is like that. I met some of the smartest people in my life. I met this one boy I shouldn't say boy, he's a man from Senegal, had a master's degree, really.
Yeah, well, the immigrants just do it because it's a way to like pay off loans or get papers and stuff.
A lot of African American too, command master chiefs on top of their stuff. Like it was really heartwarming to see that. But there's also the other side with people that just going nowhere in life. Like they just had no other option. And that's the type of ignorant stuff that they would say. And you could tell they've never been around Black people before. Like the military is the first that they've been.
What do they say?
Oh, no one knew. I remember this one asshole. My God, I was so mad. I was boiling. No one knew what happened way back then. So Africans were selling their own people. So because the United States said, okay, why don't you give it to us? We'll take them. that was okay. I said, that's what happened?
No.
That's what happened?
No.
Then he said, none of us were there. How do we know what happened? How do you know a Black guy wasn't running the ships? And I said, I'm pretty sure that didn't happen. What school did you go to? Where were you educated?
No, it's like they didn't. I mean, like you can see this from the laws in the US too, the whole like 3/5 law and stuff like that. A big part of the problem is that the way God made us is like we look so different. Like the Black people look so different to them that they didn't see them as the same as themselves. But the black like they didn't, which is, I mean, like I said, we ended up with laws pretty much saying that, and slavery itself was a republic.
I don't look at my skin color as I look so different from white people. I look at it as white people look so different from me.
I understand that, but I'm saying that's kind of like, let's just start from that as the beginning. So when they got to Africa, they just saw these people as like being like not as whatever as them. It was so easy for them mentally to just like chain them and beat them and whatever, because they felt entitled to a place in life that was better than them.
Speak the same language, that part of it too.
What like, you mean today?
No, back then. Like I think it's easier to sympathize with someone if they're speaking your language. They're saying stop.
Oh yeah.
But if I cry out in a language that you don't even understand, an animal that's talking, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
those are people. Come on now, you know that people. You know that.
I mean, it was definitely like, yeah, I mean,
because when the slaves got here and started speaking English, I mean, what was your excuse then?
Yeah, it's
the
still
white slave
continued. It's
masters
still continued. To be
started
really honest with you, I think human beings are just parasitical in general. I
and
think human,
right,
because
when the white slave masters started copulating with the slaves. So you're gonna admit to me that you slept with an animal? You
right.
think
No,
you really
I didn't say that. I wouldn't go that far. I just think that like their sense of being able to put themselves above them was easier because they saw them
easier?
as being
Yeah.
so different from them. Like I think it was easier for them to do that. And it was
Look at
easier
me.
for them to
I'm
see,
beating you up like you did it.
yeah, no, and it was easy for them to click up and do that and be like, this is like what, and so it just kind of, I mean, I don't know. I think even today it's a problem. I think even today, like, um, we still have like, I don't know. I think now though, it's more of a problem of like that's just like what things have become. It's become that, like I said, I think there's a dependency there. Like I think racism comes from dependency. I think people depend on being the one. Like what makes you rich? The fact that someone else is poor. What makes
Right.
you, like, it's all relative. So if the
Yeah,
person's poor becomes just as rich as you, then you won't feel so rich. And so you may not want that.
that's true.
What makes your house nice? The fact that maybe it's better than your neighbors, and they have, what I mean? So it's sort of that sort of dynamic. So people become dependent on that. It's almost like they don't want to, I don't know. But I mean, I think when it comes to the really bad stuff, I think we're in a good place as a world. What do you think? When it comes to the really like stuff like like I said, the really bad stuff, I think we're in a better place. We've made progress. When it comes to the really bad stuff, we've made progress over the past 400 years. Yes. Yes.
I don't know.
No? Huh?
I don't know that we have.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
some people think that a lot of heinous
Hard
things
to say.
could still descend to a point where that stuff could still happen. It just hasn't gotten to that point yet. Some people think that all the really crazy shit from the past could
It's
happen
not
again.
really over. There's slavery that exists all over the world. Slavery in the United
Yeah,
States,
that's true.
slavery is not really over.
Yeah,
Another thing that I want to say is, in a way, jails have become the new plantation.
that's true. See, you're good. You're good at reminding me of what, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
There's something called Slavery by Another. It's this documentary that I watched. It just really opened my eyes, it made me cry, really. When slavery was over, what was propelling slavery, keeping slavery alive in the South, and in a way, I kind of understand the dilemma. They had all this land that
Yeah.
needed to be
That
worked.
needed tending. Yeah. Who is going to do it if they don't have slaves? Who's going to
When
do all that work?
when slavery was over, they had to figure out, where are we going to grab this new task force, where are we going to get
Cheap labor or free labor.
her from?
Yeah.
What they started doing was arresting Black men, arresting Black boys, trying
Anything.
for anything as small as cursing, spitting, walking around without shoes in public, something that you would get a ticket for.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're in jail serving 10, 15, 20 years in a mine somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
And Sam Cooke wrote a song about this, Chain
Yeah.
Gang.
Yeah.
You'd see them on the chain gangs. And
Yeah.
after a while, these years and years would pass, and they just synonymous, Black men became synonymous with
Yeah.
criminality.
Yeah.
That's where that came from. This isn't one people, this isn't 10 people, this isn't 100 people. This is thousands of Black men wasting away in jail, wasting away in these coal mines to serve as this Southern task force and basically branded as criminals. Black women were afraid to let their sons out. Sometimes they wouldn't even do anything wrong. They were just getting kidnapped. That
Right.
would happen as well.
Yeah. Kidnapped
This
and just thrown in jail. That way they could use the labor. They could use them for
Black
free
women
labor.
were dealing with way, way, way back then, directly after slavery, and it just kept happening.
Yeah.
If you look at a Black man now versus another white man, they both can commit the same crime, and the same thing is this: they could both commit the same crime, but get a different sentence. It's not as egregious as it was back then.
Yeah. But it's
Laws are
still there.
slowly changing, but it's still predominant. It's still there. It's still
So,
happening.
so,
So
so
in a way, jail has kind of taken over the plantation. They're still slaves.
mhm.
When you're
But
in jail, you're treated like an animal. I know somebody that's in jail.
yeah,
They're still a slave.
mhm,
You're working for free for the state.
yeah. So I still don't understand, like, I get it. Like today, I can see why, because there's so many, like, there's so many more people of color. But back then, when the whole slavery thing ended, 20, 30 years after, why didn't they want, why didn't they want the Black people to succeed?
You seriously asking that question?
I know, it's like, that's such a dumb question. It's like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal?
It is a big deal for all your life. Your grandfather, your father, you yourself own slaves. And now these people that you used to own are walking around acting like they're just as good as you.
Oh,
It hurts your pride in a way.
because
And
you
it's,
feel entitled to be better than them.
yes, you feel entitled to be better than them. And that's what happened with Wall Street. It's like, who are these Black people learning how to read and write? They would, Ku Klux Klan burn down any school. Any school. So when they say accuse Black people of not being educated, it's like, when you look at what a lot of Black people went through in this country to be educated, it's understandable that
Yeah,
a lot of them, some people fell through the gaps. They're burning down schools, burning down churches. They don't want them to succeed. Their racism is just so inherent.
yeah. They just don't. They're uncomfortable with the idea of having to share success
The
with them.
hatred is just there.
It's
Like
just hatred for that.
bombings, killings. The Ku Klux Klan was also very, very alive and well back then, very powerful. If you're teaching people to read and write, you better do that in secret.
Yeah,
There's no such thing as any schools up in here,
yeah,
because next thing you know, you're going to be swinging from a rope. The lynchings that were happening, it was just
yeah,
insane.
yeah,
So Black people, in a way, ran from education. Like, we don't
yeah.
do that here.
Yeah, that's not for me. I
Not
don't
on-
need that because yeah, they ran from being the sort of, like, the bookish type, because they were punished for it if they showed too much interest in progress. But I've heard other people talk about that before too, that a lot of times, like, they were, that back in those days, you were punished for caring about reading and things like that. And so it was like, so I mean, so now which is frustrating, I'm sure, because because you're, like you said, you're a product
Now
of
they're
generations.
really held to this
You're a
ridiculous.
product of generations. And so now you get to a certain generation, it becomes like, oh, well, why aren't you more this? Or why aren't you more that? It's like, because you didn't want me to be. You know
And
what I
then,
mean?
and then on top of that, it's like nowadays there are intelligent Black people out there that are, you know,
That are pursuing things and are like, yeah.
definitely capable of competing with students from GL,
Mm-hmm.
students from Harvard. But what they're doing is there's a term that I'm looking for and I don't remember. It'll come to me later, where your father went to this university, so you automatically get a seat here. Like,
Legacy seats. Okay.
yeah, we're
So
talking
those
about.
have always been there, though. Are they increasing it? Is it more? Are they creating
Oh,
more legacy
exactly.
seats?
That's the problem, though. It's always been there. It's always been there.
Yeah.
So from the beginning of time, white people were going to these schools when reading was illegal for Black people.
Mm-hmm.
So now the people that couldn't read, their children and their grandchildren want to go to those schools, are capable of going to those schools, have the grades to go to those schools, but they cannot because those legacy seats are being used up.
So this is actually really
They're the
special.
descendants of the people that were originally there.
That's actually a really special topic, because often white people complain about affirmative action and say that how can you have certain
That's
seats
so
reserved,
insane to me.
because they actually
So
have the same thing,
insane.
because legacy seats that you reserve for people for universities that were predominantly white,
Are
male,
being
predominantly
reserved
white, are
specifically for
gonna
white.
go to, yeah, those are, that is affirmative action for white people, because those seats by default go to them, to those anyway. And so whenever you start saying, although I don't totally agree with quotas, because whatever, fine, but I think the argument against affirmative action, when white people whine about it, doesn't make that much sense sometimes, because they have reserved seat for whites too, sometimes, a lot of times.
What planet are we on, people? Like,
But to be fair, these days, though, as time goes on, though, the legacy seats can become Black or white. For example, so I went to Cornell, right? So my kids can be legacy kids. And my sister, my sister put on her application that she had a sister that was already there, put me. So I think that made them favor her application more, because then they'd have more people from the family there, and
But
she
to
went to
be
the same school
fair,
as
you
me.
are probably 10% of that.
Oh yeah, I'm not a big percent. My
You're
family
not,
just got here 40,
you don't
whatever, 40,
represent
40 years.
the,
Yeah, people from my
the
family just started immigrating not too long. Right, right. So yeah, I'm not, well, my grandpa
you're just
immigrated,
lucky.
but yeah.
Not only lucky, you have good parents, you work hard, but luck plays your hand was given, you had a good hand, you had a good playing hand.
Yeah, but your point is still right, that most of the legacy kids will end up being like, white parents who have white kids, right? And they'll have seats reserved for them, right? Yeah, whenever they try to do like measures to, but I mean, yeah. So yeah. I'm just saying that in a lot of, but people make that point too, that they have they have their own affirmative action in a lot of ways. And they don't acknowledge it. They just see like, for example, like if you because like if you're just like a white male, you can play golf, like who are they going to pick for a job? You, who's just going to be like, who's going to be part of their, do you see what I mean, versus somebody who seems different? Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, of course you don't always have to, there a lot of companies are interested in diversity too, and also a lot of people have their own companies too. They don't always toe the line of like, there's many ways in which a person can succeed, I guess I'm saying, but there are little advantages like that play more to the advantage of like, of the right person seeking, right, because and a lot of times that gets like, that doesn't get acknowledged when you bring up, I think what it is how people are. If you see anything regarding like, because the problem with issues of race and things like that, and these problems, is if you're not the one dealing with it, you feel burdened by it. You don't want to hear about it. You feel like this person's ruining your fun. You feel
Thing
like
is,
you want to just shut up
not
and
like
go
that.
away.
I'm totally okay with hearing about a Hispanic person's
That's because
experience.
you're already a person of color. So you're more comfortable with it. Yeah, you're already in a POC category. You can hear about a Hispanic person. You can hear about it. I can too. But a lot of people who don't have to deal with that stuff at all, it's like, oh my God, you totally ruined the party this morning. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I mean, I think so. I think that's the case a lot. And then they'll just accuse you of making everything about race, at which point, you should just be quiet.
How many times have I heard that one?
but at the end of the day, you have to admit that's okay. Maybe it is. Maybe my existence is about race, because I feel like if I was white trying to do and be everything I was, you wouldn't care. So and I can't change that. Do you see what I mean? So it's like, so the accusation, well, you have to make everything about. It's like, well, it's probably because it is about that. Probably because, do you see what I mean? Yeah, it's like, well, probably because that is really what's at the, yeah, you know.
I'm just remembering all the times on the ship where the white girls would throw tantrums, have an attitude, and I just sit there quietly. Oh, what's wrong with you, Tinubu? You always look so angry. This, that, and the third. I was an angry Black woman, even if I kept quiet. But these girls are allowed to cry, throw temper tantrums, do whatever it is they're doing, and it's never a big deal.
Yeah, it's really powerful,
Whatever
because
I'm
once
doing
you've
is no
decided that's,
exercise. It's like
because once you've decided somebody is the angry type, or somebody's the this type, or somebody's the that type, you filter your experience with that person through that. You don't see them as an individual anymore.
right.
You filter, you already, and the media. I mean, my friend Kat complains about this. I try to tell her it's not that big a deal, but she's right. It really is a big deal. That the Hollywood in particular, a lot of times has, I don't know if that's changed, has done an excellent job of really like, I mean, they've done it like, excellent in a negative way. I mean, like, they really perpetuate stereotypes, I guess is what I'm saying a lot of times. And that, as in, this person's that way.
Tyler Perry for that too. Every Black woman in his movies is either broken, or the father raped them, or molested or cheated on. Some Black men did them dirty. There's never a normal Black woman in any of his movies.
So his comment on that is, he's just said like, oh, those are the kinds of people that, like, I don't know. I mean, artists are people who've been through a lot. And I think a lot of what informs someone like him is that he's been through a lot. And in that vein, like, he comes from the hood, he comes from that vein, he comes from like around women, he's probably around a lot of women who were broken. And so that's why he talks about shit like that.
Black women is super stereotypical in my way. It's like I've seen this before in a
Yeah.
lot of his movies. It's super stereotypical.
I've only watched Diary of
And
a
some
Mad
more
Black
diversity
Woman, and
around.
it wasn't that bad.
Huh? What'd you say?
I said I've only seen Diary of a Mad Black Woman, and it wasn't that bad.
No, great movie. If
That
it was,
was good. I was the title was like, but then I
I love
watched it, I'm like,
that
oh,
movie.
it's okay.
I 100% love that movie.
Yeah.
I think those things happen in real life. That's a reality. But if you look at Medea's Family Reunion, if you look at um all the other, I can't even remember the name. He always had so many Medea movies. After a while, I was like, this is the same story
Yeah.
over and over and over again. And the
Yeah.
molestation, and it was always some craziness. It's the same stereotype that we're fighting against. Yes, if that's what you've seen, it's okay to write about it. But
Mm-hmm.
one thing that makes stereotypes dangerous is stereotypes, what they are half truths.
You
They're
have
half
to.
the story.
Yeah. And it's also kind of like, why can't we grow from that? Why can't we have stories from Black artists who are not those kinds of people, who write about science or who write about this and write about that? Like
But
sometimes
then
I think
again,
that
what
they're,
he's going to say is too, if something bad didn't happen to them, there would be no movie.
well, yeah, but the bad things that happen to them can be something else. Like, the struggle that they're, I mean, yeah. I mean, you're definitely right. I guess what you're saying is that Black people sometimes, artists that, like someone like Tyler Perry, sometimes contributes to you know, stories that are not.
About a woman losing her stocks on the stock market, or somebody got kidnapped, or just something else outside
Yeah,
of this
I know
toxic
what you mean.
dynamic
Yeah,
that always tends to circle around. I
yeah.
don't.
So I don't necessarily like his narratives. I'm not really a fan of the style. I don't really why. I've only seen clips of most of them. That's the only one that I mentioned is the one I've watched from start to finish. The rest of it, I've seen parts of it. But one thing I like about him is I like his hustle and his independence. I like the fact that, huh?
100%.
Yeah, I like the fact that he didn't need Hollywood to become who he is. I like the fact that he was able to do it by himself. He didn't have to
Black
he didn't
should be.
have to follow their vision for who they wanted him to be. Which no matter how well they think they're doing a good job, I think, it's just whatever. I think that it may not be the right thing, So I think that
His
it's
own thing. He didn't ask for permission, and that's what.
exactly. So I really respect that about him. So even though I don't necessarily, you're right, I don't necessarily like his narratives. And other people have criticized that too. You're not the first. Spike Lee has criticized that about him. Like he gets that. I think he's tried to do better. I think he's tried to make stuff but people still say it's the same. Like his trying to do different or better is the same.
I
So maybe
think
he doesn't know how to tell any other kind of stories.
Spike
Maybe
Lee
that's
is
all he knows how to do.
Spike Lee is very, very good.
Yeah,
Very.
he's good. Yeah.
He knows how to tell a story, and he tells it in such a real, authentic way. His way of filming, the tone of the story, the way it flows, like he's extremely good, and he really, really channels the Black experience, especially the Black experience in Brooklyn.
Yeah,
Like
he's a New York filmmaker for sure. He's
one,
totally.
I
Yeah.
really think that man is really genius.
Yeah.
If you look at there's this series called Nola Darling. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
No. What
About
is
this
it called?
Nola, no, with an N.
Like New Orleans. All right. Nola Darling.
Nola Darling,
Okay.
yes. About this Black woman that dates three men at the same time, and her dynamic, and how and she's also an artist, how she basically,
HBO? Is it an HBO series?
I don't know, let me Google it.
Okay.
I think I saw it on, it was either
She was dating three men at the same time.
at the same time.
Busy
Then
girl.
did Do the Right Thing. That was
Oh,
really good. Then
yeah.
Crooklyn. I love the fact that he showed a Black family. Mother and father is still there.
Mhm.
Four kids in the house. They live in a brownstone. They still would deal with financial issues, but they work through it. Just a struggling middle class family in Brooklyn. Really, really good story. But then the mom died. That was sad. Um, Spike Lee in general, I think is very, very intelligent.
Yeah.
Very. Then then he did the Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
That was all him.
Mm-hmm.
That was all him. Denzel gets a lot of credit for that, but a lot of people don't understand that was Spike Lee's genius as well. That was his writing as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like that was really, really done well. These great people. Hopefully.
Actors are great because, like, they can, it depends on how sometimes what the directors do is like you kind of let the actors, like if you think they know a lot about the history or they know a lot about the subject, you kind of just see what they do. So
Mhm.
sometimes you tell them what to do, but sometimes you're like, I think you know this topic really well.
Very
And,
well.
and I'm just going to let you see what you do because it'll be organic. And if we don't like it, I'll tell you what to do next time. Like we'll do another take that's different from that. Yeah. And so you just kind of let them. And a lot of times when we do that, it's so organic and so cool. And you get to realize that as human beings, we're just such natural storytellers. Not everybody, but a lot of people are because we see so much and absorb so much that
Mhm.
it's like, it's interesting to just be, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. So,
Maybe I
but which
should.
law schools are you interested in?
I don't know yet. It's just always something I thought about doing, but I
Yeah.
just never had the guts to do it.
It's not that long. It's only 3 years. So if you think
Only 3 years.
if it's not, girl, you're 31. That's not a long time at all. 30. So if you
Add
think
to it.
so if you think it's something valuable to you, definitely go for it. And don't be like reluctant because the time commitment discourages you or something like that. Don't, in other words, I'm just saying
You know what I'm
because
more
it's
so
not
worried
that long.
I'm worried about money.
Oh, okay, because like you may not be able to pay back the loans. Yeah, that's actually a genuine concern. So plan it out ahead of time because it's something I'm still dealing with. So
Mhm.
plan it out. So plan it out ahead of time. Plan it. Yeah. What are you gonna do about the loans? How are you gonna do? You know.
If I were to find a program that would be willing to pay the entire law school, I would.
You should do research. I don't know anything about that kind of stuff, so
Mhm.
you should do research about that. So
Then
yeah,
I have to take the LSAT.
yeah, that's a pain in the butt.
Mhm.
But law
That's all.
school exams are harder than the LSAT, so you just get your preparation in. And the
Yeah.
bar is like, oh, the New York bars, that's gonna be a doozy. It's a couple days.
Really?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
the
I
bars,
remember
bars.
my mom was studying for it.
Huh?
I remember when my mom was studying for it.
Oh, so your parents went to law school after you were born?
Yeah.
Oh, that's even better. That's so impressive.
Sure. My mother was very young when I was born. She got married at 21. So she graduated undergrad at 27. Took her so long to finish her undergrad. She had three small children. And then she went into law school. And I remember a lot of crying. She was always very stressed.
And
Law
then what
school,
about your dad? When did he go to law school?
Toro Law School in New York. They both went to the same law school. He got his done earlier. Um, um, he got his done a lot. I was way too young. I don't remember his, but I
That's still
definitely.
really cool that they did it while being parents, though.
Mhm.
That's still really, really good. Oh, that's beautiful.
I
When they
think
were
that
such a source of
also
support for each other. Huh?
we all like scarred from that. Like none of my siblings have children. Like I'm not the oldest. I'm the middle child. None of us have kids.
Because, well, you guys are still youngish. How old's your older sister or brother?
Well, my big brother is 40, so he has a son,
Okay.
but that's different. Then my big sister is a year older than me. She's 31. She's married, no kids. Then
And then
there's
there's you.
then my little brother is 28, no kids.
Okay.
Then the baby sister is 18, about to be 19.
So there's five of you guys then.
Five of us, and none of my cousins, like we grew up, I grew up with really close cousins. Like they lived in the house with us. They don't
On your dad's family or on your mom's family?
my mom's side. So they're half
Oh,
Haitian, half Panamanian.
oh.
Kids.
No kids?
Nobody has there's no grandchildren in this family.
That's so
It's
funny. For a
my
long time. Yeah, no, I understand. That's good. It actually makes me feel better to hear that because my brothers don't have kids and they're not married. And I'm like,
Mhm. How old are they?
well, they're in their 30s, but yeah, both. So it's like
Late 30s?
37 and 35. Yeah.
35-year-olds okay. 37 is now you need to start thinking about
To
it.
get yourself a wife. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just happy to have them be alive and be in a good place in life. One of my brothers went through a pretty tough situation about 10 years ago where he was robbed at gunpoint. So um yeah, that was not good.
Yeah, that was my
So
mom
oh,
in
your mom went through that too?
Haiti, my mother and grandmother.
Oh, wow. Well, this was here. So yeah, so that was like not good. And it kind of like he was fine at first. People are so interesting. It was fine. He was fine at first, but then after a while, it just seemed like to complicate things for him somehow. Is that
Really?
normal?
I don't know. I think it depends on the type of person you are. So
Or
I
the
date
age of the person too. The age of the person. If it's someone in their 20s.
some people, bad things can happen and they kind of look at it as, let me just put this over here and just move on. Like,
Yeah.
that's just the type of person I am.
Yeah.
I've been through some things. I had some horrible days, like way worse than the average person.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm able to just put this off, compartmentalize, put this over here, and move on, and not act like nothing ever happened, but essentially just get over things.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, they're just wired differently. My mother is one of those. She dwells. She thinks about it over and over and over.
I think men don't talk as much, so sometimes they end up being scarred more, because women are more like if I would talk to friends, family, whatever, and like one of my brothers talks a lot, but the one doesn't talk at all. Like it's just not like, so it's annoying. And you know, I have a lot of men like that too. They're very 2 words, 3 words kind of persons. But I feel like if you're too much like that, things probably get to you more.
I met
Because
somebody like that recently.
yeah, because then so, but it's okay. It's just a matter of time that things are better. And I guess I'm just kind of like, I'm not tough on them. I just want them to be in a good place all the time. So I
Are
don't
you
know.
older than them?
I'm older than them.
I'm asking you.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
I'm the firstborn. So maybe that's where it comes from. It's the protective, like, the big sister things. Like, my job is to like support you and like, and just
What do they do?
encourage. So my brother wanted to he went to Stevens Institute in Hoboken, actually. So he went to college in New Jersey, and he had a degree in biomedical engineering from that. So he was supposed to go to med school after that. And I don't know what happened, but after, he doesn't really, I don't know what he wanted. Then he decided that he wanted to be, like, 5 years later, he wanted to be ministry. Right now, what he makes a good living. My parents had a nursing school.
Mhm.
So he got his CNA from that, and then he got his whatever, another, like, the LPN or whatever. He just went through that whole process. He started with my parents' school, but then he went through the process and whatever. So that's how he makes, that's what the work he does. It's really kind of frustrating because, like, a lot
I
of
was
everybody,
just about to say he sounds so accomplished.
huh?
I was just about to say he sounds so accomplished.
Well, he is, but it's like,
Hoboken, and he just finished a just strenuous nursing program.
well, that's pretty good, and he's making good money.
And
Huh?
he's making great money. So what's the problem?
Well, the problem is that, like, everybody else in my family just feels like he could do more, and he's shying away from it.
Leave him alone.
Well, that's what my friend said. She said, leave him alone. Because he says, yeah, it's
if
a
you're not
Nigerian
a
people
doctor
thing.
or a lawyer, they think you're a complete failure in life. And not
Well, because it's like, he's like the single man that's like old enough to be doing so much, yet he's kind of like, this comfortable rut, and just kind of like,
comfortable. He makes his own living. He lives by himself. He makes
he doesn't, he lives at home, but I like him living at home because our dad died a couple of years ago. Shocking and crazy, but we lost our father. So I like that he lives at home, because my mom needs people there.
But he's capable of living by himself if he
Of
wants.
course, he threatens to move out every now and then.
He's not financially dependent on anybody.
No,
He makes
no.
good money, and he has 2 degrees.
And he's good at stocks. He's good at stocks, so he makes all this extra money on the side.
So what is everybody's problem?
We want a doctor.
Yeah,
I don't know. Okay, I'll be quiet. No, I don't know. I mean, I guess it's like,
proud of him.
We are proud of him. I'm proud of him because he's really, really smart. He gets really, really, it's not easy. I don't want to like complain for him, but I feel like his environment is not the easiest. But I don't like, it's not easy being a successful Black man in like Arizona sometimes. I think, like, for example, when he was like, working on the floor as a nurse, there were people say, he would be like, oh my God, I just lost 30 grand in the stock market. And it's like, that's fine. Well, this happened a few years, this was like about 10 years ago. It really bothered him. So he confided to like a coworker about it. And you know what she said? Somehow it became a rumor that he was a drug dealer. Wow. Because they're not used to Black people doing stuff like that. And they couldn't it didn't register in their like repertoire of stuff they got, the range of things they understood. So they had to compartmentalize it in a way that they got. And that was what they came up with.
So he's a drug dealer now.
Right. So I wouldn't have been that offended by shit like that.
I would. That's a
Okay.
big insult.
I would have been a little pissed off, but I think I just don't expect that much from people sometimes. But he was so bothered.
These are people he works with. These are people he
He
sees
it
every.
hurt him so
You don't
much.
think I'm a better person than that? You think I'm deal drugs for a living? You see me every day. It'd be one thing if you didn't know me. You see me every day, but you can't
Yeah,
get past the fact that I'm Black. So I have to
exactly.
be a
That
drug
you
dealer.
don't understand because they don't know anybody that's a stockbroker that
Well,
makes
you know
50,
me.
whatever.
Well,
Well,
you know
but they didn't, so they just like it bugged him so much. It was like
I would
so
probably quit that job. That's so disrespectful. I would get her in trouble, first of all. The girl that said it to me, it said that's the biggest insult in the world, and it's so it's lazy and it's racist.
you're very, very lucky to have lived in New York your whole life because I think in a lot of places, if it's like sometimes with folks like that, if you complain about it, they'll just get other people who are of the same that who have the similar experience, who don't really have much experience with that either, to just support them. It's like, yeah, I don't know what to do with that. Like they don't know, like
You don't think that's completely to just jump to the fact that I'm a drug dealer?
it's pretty fucked up. But at the same time, I can see how people like that, their range of experience does not incorporate that. So I can see how they could be like that. And I would be like annoyed, but also kind of like, maybe I would just try to figure out what to do where I shit like that. But
Too passive.
huh?
You're way too passive with
I
these red.
don't think that I'm passive. I think I don't, maybe passive. Maybe I just don't want to spend a lot of time being hurt.
I
Maybe I
can.
just don't want to be hurt. But yeah, he like, yeah, that really, so that's one thing that bothers him. So he goes through stuff like that bugs him a lot. But I think that's more of a result of like,
I think he needs to get out of that
that's
environment.
probably true. That's probably true. I think a lot of stuff like
He
that.
probably would do well in a
Yeah,
large.
because he has a lot in him. And instead of like supporting him and respecting it, instead they try to kind of like,
Listen, I'm not looking to you, any white person, for support. I don't need you to support me. You know what I mean? I don't need your help. I don't need you to support me. I don't need you to kiss my ass. You can stay over there. I can stay over here.
yeah.
But what you will not do is act like because I have money, I have to be doing something illegal to have gotten it.
Oh,
And then
they're like that a lot.
say it to my face.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
boldness.
Yeah. They're like that a lot. Yeah. But I mean, whatever. It's just one of those things that we just accept that we deal with out of
I
being
depressed that these are the people I'm working with.
yeah, he was. It really, really bothered him. Yeah, well, so, but
The poor guy.
the future, yeah, poor thing. It's hard. Yeah,
Guy,
he's really smart.
I'm
So, all right, well, I'm gonna let you go. We've talked enough. All right, well, God bless you, dear. Thank you for chatting with me. You're wonderful and very intelligent. I'm very impressed. And I would love to have more talks like this with you if you're okay with that. I might bring more specific questions to kind of like, channel our focus our conversation a little more. Yeah.
I
But
do
that's
have
all.
a question. I don't want to hold you too long.
Mhm.
What is the so every day you're doing a podcast? Is it every day or how often is
So
it?
basically just whenever I feel like it. I might make it more often. I might make it 2-3 days a week, but right
Mhm.
now it's just whenever. And it's kind of like a lot of things. Like I have like, film stuff on there, but then I have like combos like this on there. It's it's just something I feel the need to
You're doing
have.
something different. Good for you.
Yeah, it feels like the right thing I'm supposed to be doing more of. So I'm just doing it because. And I thought, and then something just said to me, like, because I was like, oh, my friends don't, I have some of them on there, but a lot of times they don't want to like share, like we'll be texting about something so like, political or significant, but I'll be like, oh, we need to do a bit about this. Oh no, I'm just, you know what I mean? They're like that. And so it was like, and but then something said to me, I felt like God was saying to me, like, well, I'd be more interested in you talking to people you don't know anyway. I'm not really, yeah. I was like, I'm not interested. It'd be more interesting to hear you talk to people you don't already know, as opposed to just being like, oh, let me look at my Rolodex of like, yeah, my pals or people I went to this school with or that with. And he's like, yeah. So I just thought I'm just gonna put it out there and try to like do that. And you are, of course, a blessing and a really wonderful find, okay?
And you're an amazing person too. Hopefully I can
Uh,
be on your level.
all right. Yeah. All
Watch
right.
you're a lawyer now. You're gonna get a doctorate, right? You're
I
gonna be
am.
too. I see
I
that
am.
you could do more. That's how you Nigerian
Oh
people.
yeah. The only doctorate I'm thinking about is because of my dad. Like he listed things. I read
There
his
you go.
diary.
You're thinking about it.
I'm thinking about one. Yeah, I'm thinking about one, but who knows? All right. Well, we're gonna talk again, and I'm
All right.
excited. I'm excited for this to continue. Okay.
Okay, me too.
All right. God bless you, dear. Have a good day.
God bless. Bye.
All right.